General Manager. On my right we've got Luke Zambelli, he's our environmental consultant who'll be chairing the meeting today, and on his right we've got Jacob Wilson, who's the Business Development Manager. So I think we'll go through this PowerPoint presentation first, which explains what we're proposing for the property, and then we'll take questions from the floor after that.
Ladies and gentlemen, I was employed with the state government EPA for 10 years, and it's nearly 7 years now that I've been out as an environmental consultant. My background was investigations, compliance, licensing. Mainly in my last years at the EPA was hazardous waste management, the recycling of waste, managing landfills, composting, and then looking at the use of wastes in beneficially rehabilitating poor soils. I suppose that's the reason why mainly we're going to talk about today is what this project entails, but if there is a burning question that you have, I have no problems with question being asked straight away. I'd like to get through the presentation though to give you an understanding of what we believe we can achieve. So just to give you an understanding, the government today, I suppose I'll step back a step. CSG is a big issue. We're not really here to talk about the efficacy of what CSG means. What we're here to do is that if this water is going to be created, and these wastes are going to be created, they need to be managed in a sustainable way. We believe that we've got an option that can do far greater than what currently is being looked upon by the government in relation to policy, where we have dams where they just evaporate the water, collect the salt, lock it away in a landfill, and that's pretty much it. We believe through things that we already do at a number of the facilities at NuGrow, that we can take these waters and use them, treat them, augment them with different elements or nutrients or whatever, which I'll get to further into the presentation, where we can actually use that water and build carbon in the soil. One of the things that I said to NuGrow when we were having a look at this issue was, we can build carbon in the soils with waste. I've had experience where we, not in this immediate district, but over close to Warwick, where we've used different waste types, biosolids and the like, and we've actually taken country that was very poor at best, and we turned that around in 2 years. We have a plan where we believe that we, after treatment, can have soils that are building carbon in situ, and they become very productive. So one of the things that we've selected in doing this project is finding land that is very poor or marginal at best. The paddock that we are looking at Iona is representative of that type of country.
I think you probably should call it Iona Park, because the property you're looking at is Iona Park.
Iona Park.
The property that we own is actually called Iona. So.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Iona Park. So we looked at Iona Park and we've identified it as a piece of soil that desperately needs augmentation and fortification. The country out here is dominated by mainly magnesium and sodium, and that results in the soil not really taking in any water. It has a poor microbial status. It has really no organic matter to speak of, and if it is, it's not in an appreciable quantity that's going to help. Contrary to what most people think, it's the biology of the soil that's going to make the soil work. For the different waste types that we're proposing to bring in to Iona Park, we believe under a synergistic process we can build those soils. So some people may think that the products that we're looking at could be considered to be glorified waste disposal. In order for us to gain an approval from the EHP, we have to demonstrate that we can manage potential impacts. We have to identify those potential impacts. We have to demonstrate to the EHP that we've got a program in place that if something goes wrong, we can mitigate any potential environmental harm. So I'm very confident that if we manage the resources that we've identified, we can actually improve these soils. the intention is to fix this and then move on to another property, whether here or somewhere else in the state. We believe we've got a model that no one else has got. Part of the process is to have the intelligence to do it, but also to have the waste. What we're proposing to do is cost prohibitive to try and get all synthetic fertilisers and proprietary products and apply them to land. Unless you've got a lot of money and you can do that, we're trying to find ways in which we can use waste that are ordinarily getting thrown away in landfills and the like, and we can actually make good use of those. So I'm going to go through this PowerPoint and just give you an understanding of what the purpose is and how we're going to manage things, and then we can start asking questions. If there's something straight away that you want to ask, feel free to do that. The main purpose is to improve the soil quality of the pastures that are displaying poor soil health. We've characterised Iona Park and basically everything that you don't want to have in the soil is present. We want to increase the value of farms with the poor quality pastures so that it can give people an understanding of how we can make these farms productive again. I've had examples and experience before where we've turned places around within 2 years, where one example at Allara, there was probably 400 goats on 600 hectares that they had to be destroyed because they were actually malnutrition. Within two years we had 300 to 400 head of beef cattle on that property after we were growing forage crops and the like from the improvements that we did to the soil. We want to provide, I suppose, the government an opportunity to see a way in which we can deal with these wastes in a beneficial way, as opposed to just putting them in landfills or having them go to facilities where they're not being used efficiently. I suppose the primary objective is to build humus into the soil. Currently, Iona Park is, I think, from the data we've obtained, is something like 0.5% organic matter. The humus value that's been determined, whilst in some parts there are microbes in that soil that have converted that organic matter into humus, but there's just not any organic matter in the soil for it to keep moving. So we need to feed those microbes. We need to stimulate those because it's the microbes that will feed the plants. It's not synthetic fertilisers, it's really the microbes. So the main objective is to use these wastes and grow carbon. The goal of NuGrow is to offer an alternative service which, as part of the soil rejuvenation program, will use CSG drill and production waters. We'll use treated camp effluents and untreated camp effluents. Untreated camp effluents we'll treat on site, and then we'll mix those treated effluents with CSG waters. We will treat those waters and also basically irrigate them to the land as and when required. The direct application of biosolids will occur, albeit we'll be limiting our application rates to what the plants really require. There will be no overloading on the soils, and we can demonstrate that through a yearly process and monitoring that we will apply, which is all demonstrable in the documents that we have to submit to the EHB to demonstrate that we're not causing environmental harm and nuisance. Again, food waste, liquid solid food waste from these camps, we'll take that, we'll compost it on site and basically turn that into stable humified compost. And this is really the game of what NuGrow has been in for the last 6 to 7 years. Is basically making soils, bioremediating soils and making stabilised compost. So compost is a big part of this process. We will also be bringing in compost that's been made by NuGrow or other people if they've got the product to stimulate these soils further. So essentially, we're going to, and if we turn to the page, there's a flow diagram of how we're going to manage these wastes. There's a lot of green waste that's already on the ground at the facility or at Iona Park, and basically we'll take that and we'll tucker on that material. Some of it will be used for composting. Some of it we'll put into the soil and we'll stimulate the microbial activity by feeding biosolids into that soil. We'll leave those soils for a period potentially of 12 months to gestate. to build the microbial activity. We need some time to stimulate these soils because it's the microbes that feed the plants, not anything else. The food waste, liquid and solid, we only have an allowance to compost for less than 200 tonne a year. So it's not a very large activity in relation to composting, but what we will make is fortified, stable humus, where 2 to 10 tonnes per hectare will be more than enough to stimulate those soils with microbes for them to feed on the nutrients and the material that we've applied to the soil. Biosolids and manures will be the main nutrient source that we use. They'll be directly applied. Again, I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with biosolids application, but there's strict guidelines that we adhere to, which Queensland subscribe to, which we've demonstrated in our site-based management plan. We can't overload the soil. We'll have to track the inputs and the loading rates. We have to quantify what has actually come out of the ground via the vegetation that we've grown, so that there's a mass balance there that with a fair good tolerance we can demonstrate to anyone that the soils are not being overloaded. We'll use untreated effluent, and we will treat those untreated effluents through a sand filter. That sand filter material, once it's spent, we'll use that in the compost plant, so we will compost that material out. But the sand filtration will take the gross solids from the untreated effluent, and we'll mix that with the received CSG waters and production waters in a dam, so that we can have a tolerance of salinity that we're applying to the soil. Now, irrigating saline waters to soil that's poor is not a good thing. You're not going to get anything from that. If though you stimulate the soil so that the benefit of the water can be realised, then that works very, very well. For example, if we were just to take CSG waters now and irrigate a Cation Park, I couldn't stand in front of you here and say anything's going to work. Probably wouldn't. Most of it would run off and probably fill the creeks in the areas with salt. Our process is that we're going to open up the soil, bring in addendums to increase the cation exchange capacity or the holding capacity of that soil. So these salts, everything's salt. Everything in the soil is salt, except for the microlife that lives in there. So you've got an organic and you've got an inorganic component to your soils. So by the way and the method that we will open these soils up and treat them, we will effectively use that water without salt becoming an issue. We have some proprietary technology which is commercial in confidence that we will treat those waters with. The technology has been around for 20 years in Australia, and it's been successfully used in irrigating groundwaters that are at, say, 8,000 microsiemens, 9,000 microsiemens per centimetre, where before crop failure was evident, where now they've got increasing yields occurring. Water hasn't changed, it's just been treated a certain way. We'll adopt that technology at the Iona Park for the purpose of treating the waters before they're irrigated. We have a tolerance where we believe that we can irrigate waters that are greater than 8,000 microsiemens, but initially we are setting a limit of irrigation at 8,500 microsiemens. That means that we have to be careful in what waters we receive, and our target is the waters that at the moment the industry is looking at boiling off the waters, evaporating the waters, putting them in dams, which now is becoming a policy by the government that's not going to be encouraged in the future. I think that's fair because it's just a waste of the water. If it is going to come out of the ground, we might as well use it if we can use it properly. So we will track incoming liquids for their salinity and other contaminants, which I've got a list which I can talk further about in a moment. The Waste Management Overview page basically gives you an idea of the different inputs that we're going to synergistically use at Iona Park for the enhancement of the soil. I said before that Iona Park is dominated by magnesium and sodium. It's not what we want as base saturation cation levels. Plants won't meet their genetic potential if they're not susceptible to a base saturation level of calcium being at 65%. That's a target that is it is the target that NuGrow will be working towards, and that will mean that we'll be applying calcium to the soils, the waters, to ensure that we turn that around. When we turn that around, the water, the soil itself will be more agrified. It won't be as hard-panned as what it is. Water will be actually able to infiltrate the soil, because currently at the moment with what we've done as a preliminary overview of the site is that even with our penetrometer testing, which is just a resistance test, pushing a probe into the soil to see how much tension or pressure per square inch, I should say, is being put back. We know that anything over 300 psi, we've got roots that really won't move through the soil. Now, if you have a look on that second page there, you'll see the type of pasture, or if you want to call it that, or the type and quality of the soil that we've got to play with. This soil here will not receive any water. What we propose to do with our method is that all water that is hitting that soil will infiltrate the soil proper. Our aspiration is not to have any water leaving the property, or if it does, it's of a state that won't cause environmental harm. That will include monitoring of on-site dams and I suppose the runoff that's coming from pastures to ensure that we're not overloading the paddocks. This will all be documented on a yearly basis, if not half yearly for certain parameters, so that we can demonstrate to the EHP that what we're actually proposing will work. You can see the layout of the Iona farmstead, or Iona Park. We've separated the blocks into 4 paddocks, but then further still we've separated those paddocks into sub-blocks, into 10 hectare sub-blocks. This will allow us to track at any stage what is being applied to the soil. So if, for example, something remiss was to happen with the biosolids that we were to receive, and unfortunately there was some sort of contaminant, I don't know how, because of the testing that we're going to have to do anyway before, in accordance with the guidelines, occurs, but let's say something happens and we miss it, we'll be able to isolate that paddock and fix it, or that sub-block. You can see we've got exclusion zones shown on that image. This is where water runs off on the site, and we will contour around those areas and apply biosolids not in those areas. We will monitor the dams to ensure that our application rate and incorporation is efficient and effective. We're not just going to leave biosolids sitting out on the ground, because otherwise in probably 42 hours the nutrient benefit that we were going to get to stimulate the microbes and the organic matter present in the biosolids, it's going to be dry, it's going to be burnt off, and it's not going to be moist, and the microbes really aren't going to attack it. So the emphasis is not to store these wastes or these resources for significant periods of time, it's to get them in the ground to use them quickly. You can see where we have remnant vegetation on the site. We won't touch those areas. We've incorporated buffer zones so that there's a 20-metre buffer zone around the whole paddock, so that by rights there should be nothing leaving the Iona farmstead in the way of contaminated stormwaters. Groundwater, you can see there's a borehole that's logged. It's greater than 20 metres below the surface, which is what we want to see for these type of activities. It is very unlikely that any water that's applied to the surface will get to groundwater. The sampling that we did, we put 13 cores over that property. We did not use an auger, we had to use a push stem tube drill rig. Instead of taking it down to 900, we took it down to 1.2 metres. Pretty much the whole way through that soil profile is tight. It's very hard. You will not get any water past 1 inch, quarter of an inch. Maybe in these runoff zones where there is some sand, you will get some penetration of water, but it's not significant. What these soils out here desperately need, ladies and gentlemen, is organic matter, and for that organic matter to be turned into humus. That's the only secret of how we're going to fix our soils and how we're going to repair them. Anyone that says you can do it with anhydrous ammonia mixed with a couple of other things from Insitec or the like, it's not going to happen. Those things actually destroy the soil further. What we want to do is bring the microlife back into the system, because it's the microbes that feed the soil. It's the microbes that will make the soil clean so that the percolated water will be clean. The emphasis is to build carbon. To build carbon though, at an accelerated rate, when you make compost, it needs to be moist. You won't make compost or stable humus, because it's all about humus, with dry compost. So essentially, the water from the CSG camps will be used as the medium in which the microbes can move through and eat this organic matter and turn into stable humus. If we don't have that, yes, we can still do what we say we're going to do, it'll just be a slower rate. The benefits from the pasture improvement, well, we will improve the soil quality. Primarily it will be that organic matter and organic carbon that I'm talking about. As such, we'll increase the water holding capacity, and we've demonstrated in our documents the type of volumes that we could actually store if we start building the carbon into percentage ranges, 2-3%, up even up to 5%. We can store a significant amount of water on that site, and that can be that can certainly drought-proof to a degree farmsteads in the area. We've had a look under the microscope currently on what the soils have got in them. They're very poor. On this site we have a stand of trees. As such, the microbes, diversity and health and motility is more significant in the bush than what it is in the open pasture area. What we want to do is, in that open pasture area, we want to get microlife through that top 300 mil, so that well, if we can demonstrate that we've got well, we don't even have an organic matter layer, we don't even have a topsoil layer at Iona Park. If we can go from that to that, the potential for crop production is immense. We'll also look at micronutrients as well. We're not just coming out here focusing on just the main nitrogen, phosphorus and potassiums. We will concentrate on building calcium levels so that they are stacked in a way in which the soil will open up and not be tight. We'll also use micronutrients where appropriate to make sure we've got that balance there to feed the microbes, because again, it's the microbes that feed the plant. It'll displace the need for fertilisers. I'm not against fertilisers, they do have their place. You can use them in a synergistic way, and we may, for example, in future use some synthetic fertilisers, but we would like to try and get away from doing it at all, because if we can get the right microbes in that soil, one in particular is azotobacter, we can pull as much nitrogen as we want from the atmosphere. There's enough nitrogen per square metre up to the stratosphere that if you've got air moving through your soil and you've got certain bacteria that can strip that nitrogen from the air, you don't need to buy any nitrogen. So we just need the right microbes in the soil to give us everything that we want. It's not too far different than what's happening on the planet over the millions of years that it constructed itself to make all these plants and forests and that productive. We'll increase plant health and yield. That'll result in increased animal health as well. We'll certainly increase the value of the Iona Park, the Iona farmstead, and I suppose we'll increase this carbon sequestration in soils, and we'll keep it there. It'll be stable humus. To verify the pasture improvement, we've got a rigorous sampling regime that we'll perform on a yearly basis, and in some instances on the following page you'll see the list of contaminants that we're going to analyse for. In some instances we won't analyse for the nasties, the DDTs, the aldrins, the dendrins and PCBs because they won't be there, they're not there in the soil currently, and the only way they could come is if they're coming through the sewage treatment plants from a number of sewage treatment plants that we potentially could receive biosolids from. Before we even use these resources, we need the permission of the generator or the holder of those wastes, because because the EHP won't give us approval, just carte blanche to bring it in. So it is quite rigorous from an assessment point of view. The EPA, or the EHP I should say, will look at the potential for contamination and determine whether or not our proposal is going to manage those risks appropriately. Like I said, there was 13 soil cores. Over those 13 soil cores, you can pretty much guarantee that the farm is fairly consistent from the ground surface to 1.2 metres down. Albeit there's a couple of different things there in relation to iron and some carbon levels or organic matter levels when we looked at the bush part of the block as opposed to the open pasture area. What we're going to do in also with the pasture improvement verification is we're going to use some methods of assessment that have been around for many, many years. A lot of good things were done in the 50s and the 60s that we haven't been taught recently at university, and a lot of people just think that it's just nonsense. However, we're going to adopt some tests, quite easily tests, to demonstrate in situ how we're repairing the soil. That'll be infiltration test with water, that'll be the penetrometer test, but we also do things such as paper chromatography where we will actually have a look at the proteins, the amino acids that are created by the microbes to demonstrate that the soil is coming alive. Certain patterns are made of dead soil, certain patterns are made of living soils. It's a method that was introduced by Aaron Reed Pfeiffer in the 60s, and it's a method that the Lukey family in Austria swear by, and which was a method that I was taught, which I think, look, the numbers can tell you one thing. Unless you really understand the numbers, it doesn't really mean much at all. But if you learn how to do the test and you knew what a bad picture was as opposed to a good one, that test will tell you straight away that your soil is coming alive. So we're going to incorporate some old methodologies with new methodologies to have a complete set of verification on a number of fronts to demonstrate what we're doing is actually appropriate and it's sound. The documents that we've been putting together for submission for the EHP to assess encompasses a number of pieces of legislation, and we've just listed those there to, I suppose, demonstrate to you that we're not cavalier in our approach. We're addressing many provisions of different pieces of legislation that demonstrate the benefit. We only listed those there just to give you an idea of what we're actually looking at. In the documents that we prepared, we've identified the potential impacts to air, water, noise. We've listed a few of those there so that you know that we've identified that, you know, if we are cavalier in our approach and we mismanage these items, these are the type of things that could occur. The soil is such that if we were remiss and we were negligent in our behaviour, it would be easy for the EHP to determine that we're causing harm, because everything would be running off the paddock in the receiving environment. We don't believe that we're going to create any impacts to the air, noise or water environments through the control measures and procedures that we've got in place, which is attached to a document that's called a site-based management plan. And site-based management plan has a number of workplace procedures, control measures, that demonstrates to the EHP on how things are going to be managed. We'll have enough water on the site to manage dust. Biocides application. We won't apply biocides when the soil is inherently dry. We won't allow biocides to dry out inherently so that it becomes an airborne dust or particulate that contains pathogens or microbes. It is unhealthy material to breathe in. So we're cognizant of that through the work that we've done at our composting facilities, and we believe that dust is not going to be an issue for the site. Odour management, yes, look, biosolids can be a source of odour. We all know that if they go rotten, we don't really want to stand around them. We've had many years of experience using a piece of technology that comes from Germany. Its trademark name is Bioactive, and there's a number of things or a number of products that I suppose is part of the bioactive product. We will treat our waters for algal proliferation with bioactive water. We will treat biosolids with bioactive manure. In case if those manures start to go sour or they start to putrefy, we'll spray bioactive. It's a how can I put it? It's a powder that releases oxygen into the system. If we have an oxidised system, you don't have smells. If you have an anaerobic system, you have smells. It's completely indicative of the biology that's working. We're going to have aerobic biology in the soil, so we shouldn't have odour. If we do have odour from the biosolids, we'll either compost it or we'll treat it with the bioactive. Once I mix it into a blend with compost, you can stabilise that material very, very quickly. I don't believe from the amount of biosolids that we will receive on the site that odour will be an issue. Adherence to those workplace procedures that I mentioned before, and those procedures are no different than what I have working on facilities all around the state. If they stick to those procedures, you won't have an issue. If they don't, you possibly could. Water management. Special mentions made of the 20 metre buffer zone around the facility, or around the property. We will potentially apply compost on that buffer strip to ensure that we can grow some grass, to ensure that nutrients and sediment is minimised from leaving the property. We're going to contour certain areas of the site so that we can trap as much water as we possibly can in the site. We need the water for the microbes and I suppose, decompose or degrade those resources or waste types that are coming into the soil. Again, I don't believe groundwater is going to be affected due to the distance. If it's greater than 20 metres below and the soil's that tight, it's just not going to move there. On-site dams will be regularly monitored. The biosolids and manures will only be applied at the rate determined by the Biosolids New South Wales guideline. That is for contaminants and nutrients. Let's say, for example, we want to grow something that takes 120 kilograms of nitrogen per hectare. We're not going to put 240 on. We'll have to demonstrate through the crop or pasture that we're growing the actual application rate. If, for example, that material is contaminated with, say, a heavy metal that makes it, biosolids are classified from A, B, C or D grade. We're actually asking for A to C grade to apply to the soil. That gives us certain tolerances to have maximum soil values of those contaminants in the soil. We will limit that application rate. Let's say we could use 12 tonnes per hectare of that material for the nutrients. But the calculation for the heavy metals tells us we can only use 5 tonne. Only amount that we can put out is the 5 tonne. So we'll have to go and find a cleaner source of nitrogen for our requirement. We'll have to track this and demonstrate this, and that'll be auditable by the EPA or EHB on a 12-monthly basis. We'll ensure that our plant and equipment is up to speed and has been serviced and it's not defunct, so that noise should not be an issue on the site. In summary, the soil present at the Iona Farmstead or Iona Park is desperately in need of enhancement with organic matter and calcium and nutrients. We believe through the resources that we're going to apply, it'll bring about a complete reversal of what is occurring on that piece of property.
What form of calcium are you going to use, mate?
Big yours?
In what form are you going to apply calcium?
We're basically going to use fine agricultural lime. No magnesium, so it's going to be as pure as we possibly can of calcium. We've got enough magnesium on that place. We will also, the bioactive products that we'll put into the water is a calcium carbonate based powder. We will also, I suppose, we will dope those waters with calcium. Let's say the majority of the CSG waters that are going to come in are going to be either potassium or sodium dominated. We will counteract that potassium and sodium by introducing calcium into that water. We will then bring it down through a travelling irrigator after it's been treated with this piece of technology that we're going to apply so that we can use these waters efficiently and none of the calcium or the sodium will hang in the pipe. Essentially we're changing the water's properties so that salt's not an issue. So we will track the base saturation levels of the soil to demonstrate that over time we're moving the opposite way from what it is at the moment. Calcium at the moment, I think, from memory, we out of the 13 cores, we performed 497 sets of analysis to demonstrate that soil is deficient in calcium. Where calcium should be 65%, I'm pretty sure I've got something that's 5%. I've got magnesium at about 57%, I've got sodium at something like 23%. The only saving grace for that place is the amount of magnesium, because if that wasn't there, then that place would be affected by salinity and acidity as well. But we don't have the saline problem. Our EC of those soils are quite good at the moment. I think they're running at 0.2 decisiemens per centimetre, I think. It's immaterial, it doesn't matter. We've said that we're going to bring our base saturation for calcium up to 65% in the root zone. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to deep rip that soil. We're going to bring the clays that have moved down through the profile up to the surface. That straight away is going to give us an increase in our cation exchange capacity so that we can apply some nutrients with the confidence that it's just not going to run through like, if I put it on sand, it's just going to go straight through. The sand's got no holding capacity. What determines that is the value or a concept of cation exchange capacity. It's all just based on charge. Most of the time your soil's negative and all these things are positive. If I've got enough negativity here, I can hold on to these things. Sand doesn't have any negativity. Clay does. At depth, at about 500 mil, we have got some higher CEC values. Not enough to where we want to go. Let's say, for example, it's at 20 milliequivalents per 100 gram. We want to bring that up to 100. To do that, we're going to do that with the conversion of the organic matter into humus. Because the humus will have a higher CEC, somewhere around about 100 points as opposed to 20 points, and then when you have sand, it might be 1 point. So all we're really doing is trying to emulate what's out there in high productive soils.
You are aware of the amount of water that runs, because effectively everything on Iona Park is going to land on Iona. The water comes through there roughly 18 inches deep, and I'm just wondering how you intend to even think you're going to control that water flow.
We'll only control the waters that we've got on our land.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It's coming from your land to my land.
Ah, yeah, right.
How are you going to keep it on your land?
Yeah. In those exclusion zones there, we're going to contour this land so that the biosolids and the like, where's that picture? In these areas where we've marked exclusion zone, we're going to harvest the water that lands on this place. These dams will get bigger. We're going to try and harvest as much water and keep as much water as we possibly can on this site so that we can keep adding water to these soils to make them productive. Any external water that's coming onto the property, we'll keep that out, as long as it doesn't affect our neighbours. Now, we will work with our neighbours to ensure that we won't make a worsening condition. We won't just build a bund on the side and just push it back your way, unless we may have to come to some sort of an agreement where we work with you to do that. Or
no, it doesn't go on to, it doesn't come from me to you.
Yeah.
It comes from you to me. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
All your water will come to me.
Where
are you going to
so you're down here.
Water that lands on Iona
and behind it.
Park.
Anything that falls on here,
on the property.
anything that falls on here, we're going to contain it.
No, there's not going to be no runoff.
No. And over time, we're going to stimulate these soils. And see, the reason at the moment the water's running everywhere is that the Iona farms, the Iona Park is like this. It all is. But if I open up 500 mil of that soil and I really agrify it, and I introduce humus, we'll take all that water. So
I find that virtually impossible to believe, but you're going to attempt to prove it.
we're going to attempt to prove that. If, for example, I had enough machinery and enough organic matter and all that right now, and we had enough money to put all the machinery on, we could fix that soil within 12 months so that all that water that hits that soil is into the soil. We can't do that. We're going to step through this paddock in subcells and treat 10 hectares at a time, stimulate those soils 10 hectares at a time. Once we finish that 10 hectares, we'll move on to the next block. I'm not saying this solution is going to be there in 12 months. It may be a 10-year project that I own.
Are you actually buying the waste, or they paying you to take the waste, or what drives it?
They'll pay.
Commercial operation.
Yeah.
Yes, but I'm just asking what, so...
Which way commercial?
So you're
paying them, or are they?
You're getting paid to operate a waste disposal facility, really?
That's right.
And the guys,
Well, it's not,
you're not doing it as a charity to sort of, do there.
it's not that, but it's not waste disposal. It is, these items that we're after is that we're demonstrating to the EHP, we have to demonstrate to the EHP that they are of benefit. I can't just say, look, it sounds good, and you trust me, and then we're going to get the waste on the site.
Well,
it doesn't work.
Kevin's asking us to do that now. Trust him that he knows how he's going to deal with the site. No, I know that, but I'm just saying we're being asked to trust an awful lot of people.
Yeah, I understand that.
And up to date, no one's
come
up with the goods. You might.
Sir, I can appreciate that.
Well, Brian's actually got a bore on his place. It's been tested 3 times by the government regulators.
Yeah.
You can light it up, right?
Yeah.
But there's no gas coming out every time they test it.
According to the government.
And that's a little bit hard, for some of us people to understand.
So my paranoia might have a bit of a basis to it.
That's a fair comment. If you want to get my telephone number, I've got a methane meter that's very, very accurate. I'll tell you if it's going to light up or not. So
we know,
because I put a match to it, lights. That's over fire.
It's over its low explosive limit. So anyone telling you that there's nothing in there, look, don't believe them.
I mean, the government fellows that testing it say they've seen it light up and they say there's no gas coming out. So it's a little bit hard for us to understand how these government regulations you're abiding by are going to protect us, because on the ground it doesn't look like this.
I can appreciate that. I worked for the government for 10 years. Don't work for them anymore. So the waters that we receive, if it does have methane in it or traces in it, that doesn't really concern us. It's not going to contaminate the receiving environment. We have expertise in bioremediation, where we take hydrocarbon contaminated soils at Rockhampton and we turn that back into soil that's got nothing into it. What's the trick?
A lot of the water that's coming out of these things apparently has got a lot more stuff than you're testing for.
I've actually got 6 questions which I'll give you at the end of this.
Certainly.
But I want to read them out anyway. Can we see the independent scientific chemical and radioactive activity analysis of the NuGrow products using CSG wastes and ingredients?
Yes, you
that would be one. Would NuGrow allow independent scientific chemical and radioactive test program for their products using CSG wastes and ingredients? From what geological formations and surface locations do NuGrow products containing CSG wastes and ingredients come from? From what geological depths do NuGrow products containing CSG water wastes and ingredients come from? Can I see the NuGrow ingredients waste classification certificates for the CSG industry wastes they are using? And can I see the trial data of scientific tests done on the soils, etc., treated over time by NuGrow products containing waste? So I guess what?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, this is transparency. What I'm asking here is...
No problem, sir. You can get that. In relation to the geological sequence where it's going to come from, that really depends on how much information we can obtain from the generator. However, the analysis that we receive, you can be privy to that. Currently at the moment...
can you say that first sentence again? Sorry, I missed it. The first sentence where you said that the information that you get from the from the
Yeah,
generator?
in relation to the question about the geological sequence of the depth of where the drill waters or production waters have come from, look, we're endeavoured to do that. It doesn't really matter what depth it comes from, other than we make sure that we scrutinise the analytes, which we are, the analytes or the contaminants that are in the waters at the moment that we receive. Currently, we have data that we're submitting to the EPA, the EHP. I'm sorry I keep saying EPA, I just always used to say the EPA, and it's just a slip all the time. But we can give you the radionuclides that are present in there. The waters that are being used for stock water at the moment probably do have strontium in them. They probably do have uranium in it. They probably do have thorium in it. The Swanbank Power Station, when they used to burn coal in the A and B station, 1 tonne of uranium 235 was coming out of that material a year, and 4 tonne of thorium. So I'm not going to say that there's no radioactive nuclides in this material, but we really got to have a look at, are they alpha emitters, are they beta emitters, or are they gamma emitters? We can make that information available to you. From the compost that we make at the moment, from the CSG drill muds and waters, production waters that we're receiving, and processing at Swanbank and Gracemere, we're meeting the Australian standards. We are effectively decontaminating soils and converting drill muds, for example, that you can't do anything with, back into productive topsoil. And that's basically the chemistry and the microbiology. So you can be privy to that. You can be there with me in the field if you wish. I'll show you what you've got, take a sample for you, sample for me, get it analysed, and you can send it to another lab and see how accurate that lab's method is to ours.
Because
We
that's
have
the
no
thing
problems with
that would naturally concern me. This water that will run off of your property,
That's true.
which you say won't, and I hope it doesn't,
Yes.
because that'll solve the
Big
problem.
problem for you. Yeah.
But that water runs into what we use as our house stand, and that, you can imagine the bio contaminants that and the raw effluent and things like that.
That's right.
That's a real concern for the
That's
person
right.
that's got grandchildren.
That's
I don't think this is an unreasonable concern that I have.
No, I'm not saying that it is. I want to ensure that where you're living and where that water's coming onto your property, if it is going to get onto your property, we're going to do some significant earthworks on this place to trap the water, because the water is part and parcel of it. If that water is clean and we can demonstrate to our neighbours that it's clean through a program of monitoring, then you might want some of that water to go into your dams. But if you don't, we'll keep it. Yeah, so I have no problems demonstrating that to you. If I'm releasing dirty, nutrient-rich waters from my project, then I'm not fulfilling the project aim. I'm not getting what I want, because I've got to feed those microbes. I've got to get those microbes happy. I need water for microbes and I need the nutrient. There's no point going to your dam and then I don't have the microbes. I'm not going to build the carbon that I'm looking for. Then I can't demonstrate to people that what we've got here is a synergistic program of work. That's the issue. So I have no problems in making anything available as long as I can get it.
Are you allowed to build, like, how can you tap the water, because the government's been on to us, so we've got to have water going down to Darwin, and you know, for us to construct dams, and we've got two pretty big irrigation dams.
Yeah.
And they put the clampers on us, you know, we're not supposed to build anymore, and I just wonder how you're going to get around this one, because, you know, we're cutting the water off from the Murray Yarra.
At the end of the day, we could put this across the table to EHP, this whole thing that we're going to do, and they might just go, not happening. And they will take all those considerations into it. We mightn't get the dam that we want. If we don't get the dam, it doesn't go ahead. So,
I
understand what you're saying, mate.
Like, I've done a bit of the soils. If you can lift your organic carbon levels up to say 4%,
Yeah.
5 times the water holding capacity.
Exactly right.
Soil.
Exactly right. So,
And I mean, I'm very interested in what you're doing.
yeah, no. What we're going to do is, for example, we'll start in paddock 1.
Yeah.
Now, I can't stop all the runoff straight away that's coming off that place now, because otherwise I could run into the problems that you're talking about with the government saying, hang on, you're stopping water from going into the catchment. Even though it's probably doing more harm, because I see all the creek systems around here, they're all falling apart because, again, it's magnesium, sodium dominated stuff, and there's no humus in the soil, and and the country's getting fried by the year. So I'll start up here, and I'll make sure that if my runoff, and again we're going to contour these paddocks to make sure that in these exclusion zones I can sink and hold back the water to allow, I want these waters to soak into the soil. As I start moving through these paddocks, they should by rights, if I increase the organic matter, start to agrify, and they should start opening up, and I should have left runoff. Once I've got those soils where I want them to, then the runoff should be clean. It really should be clean. It shouldn't be colloidal, it shouldn't be high in sodium and magnesium, and it will get better. Contrary to what people think, maybe not some of the people in this room, the biosolids being made into compost or directly applied to soil, once it's allowed to be transformed into humus, then the water's percolating through that soil is going to be absolutely clean, or a lot cleaner than what they are. I've just got to make sure that when we're applying the raw biosolids first, and it rains, it doesn't run off into your dam. And we'll go and we'll make sure that it occurs. We won't spread this material far and wide on the paddock and then all of a sudden, oh geez, what am I going to do? I can't catch this. We will make sure that in the area that we're working, we've got it contained and controlled.
When you deep rip it to start on?
Yeah, we're going to deep rip it to 500 and bring the clay that's at the bottom to the top. Okay. Then we're going to hit that soil straight away with some lime. Then we're going to hit it with compost. Then we're going to feed it with biosolids. And in conjunction with all that, we're going to irrigate the CSG waters. Mixed. So we're going to have a dam. We're going to ask for a dam that's going to give us allowance for 20 megalitres of storage. That'll give us 20 wet weather days where we won't apply liquids to land.
So this is treated CSG water or untreated CSG water?
There'll be drill fluids, production waters, treated camp effluent and untreated camp effluent going in to this dam. The untreated will be treated first. We'll make that, I suppose, a shandy in that water to make sure that I can keep my salinity to no more than 8,000 microsiemens. Because the technology that we're going to use to treat this water we know is effective at 8,500 microsiemens. We think from the manufacturer we can go higher. I've seen data from America where they used 9,500 microsiemen water and they were growing crops where before they weren't. Nothing else different to what they were doing on the farm other than what they did to the water with the treatment. So this technology has been in Australia for 20 years and we're going to use it. Yes, ma'am.
How many companies are you getting waste from? Is it multiple companies?
In obtaining the beneficial use approval, it's a specific approval between the generator and the user. So let's say, for example, at this point in time we're applying with Company X for their water. It doesn't necessarily give us the approval to go up the road to get someone else's. However, the EHP, in their decision to issue the beneficial use approval, and they've done this before when I've been involved in biosolids being applied to land, where we've used, say, Toowoomba's biosolids history as the data set that we say these are the type of biosolid ranges that we're going to apply to the soil. We have had a result in the EHP saying, well look, as long as you are A to C grade, it doesn't really matter where you come from. Now, the same with the CSG waters, we've proposed certain rates or limits on the type of waters that we're going to receive. We're not sure yet whether the EHP will say, yes, you can have an approval to receive CSG waters per se, as long as they stick within those limits. It may mean we have to go back and ask for an amendment to the BUA to say, well look, here EHP, here's their data set, it's the same as what we asked for the approval, can we use this water from this field? It really depends. We're limiting ourselves to 1 million litres maximum receival a day. We're not going to get that. So we've only got 20 megalitres of storage. In answer to it, it's a specific approval between the generator or the person who owns that waste. So we can't just open it up for everyone to come to us, no.
So is it one specific company that you're dealing with?
That's right, at this current time, yes.
And can you say who it is?
No, commercially,
Can't.
Okay.
But it is one company.
Do you have an environmental authority at the moment?
No, we don't, ma'am.
Are you applying for one?
We're applying for what they call a beneficial use approval. A beneficial use approval declassifies waste and turns it into a resource for the benefit and the purpose of what we're proposing to do. So it's not an environmental authority. Normally, under a development approval, you need to publicly notify. Under the beneficial use approval, this forum today is our public notification. We've written a letter to the local authority and the immediate neighbours.
So this is it?
This is it. Yep. So this is your public notification. Under the Waste Management Resources and Recycling Act, section 157, this is our notification.
And what if there are objections? In what forum does that take?
Well, the objections will be considered by the EHB, and if the objections are like what was just presented before as a concern, we'll have to address those.
But what's the forum for presenting objections? If there isn't an environmental authority in place, if it's just you asking for a beneficial usage package?
Well, the beneficial use approval is like an environmental authority. The beneficial use approvals came about when you want to deal with waste. You need a development approval, and then you need an environmental authority from the EPA on top of that. When it came to farms and the like coming to the EHB saying, well look, that biosolids over there or that waste type there, I can use that to fortify my soils. There was no mechanism at the EHB when I was there back in, I don't know, I think it was 2003 or 2004, for these wastes to go to land without bringing out what they called an environmental management program. And those environmental management programs had sunset clauses on it, either for 3 years or 5 years. Anything over 3 years, you had to put public notification out. That meant people had to go back again and again to apply for these. So the EHB considered how could we allow farmers to get the benefit of certain types of waste, because in my opinion landfills should be banned in Australia, and all our organic matter and biosolids and anything that can be turned into humus should be done so and put back out into our soils. Our soils are very old, they need humus, that's why they're not working.
Well, you had to do that back in the 20s, didn't they?
They've known how to do it for 4,000 years in China, mate. So there's no real rocket science to all this. It's just the political will or the people that control the landfills who lock up the waste. And for many, many reasons. People might say it's unhygienic, there's no sanitary. Look, anyone can be scared into many, many things. However, to get back to your question, there was no mechanism for this to be approved without a lot of duress and a lot of reapplication. So the EHB brought in the provisions of beneficial use approvals. That's where wastes are declassified and they are classified as a resource.
How can you get approval for that though, for beneficial use to be changed from that to that without doing it first, showing that it's going to work?
There are examples around the world. Queensland's not, by any stretch of the means, were the first to bring up this beneficial use approval. They looked around the world and said, what are they doing around the world? So there's mechanisms in other states of Australia and also around the world where they have these beneficial use approvals. But for us to use this material, we've got to demonstrate in documents to the EHB how this is going to work. We have to have certain limiting values on it so that we report every 12 months that the benefit that we're saying is occurring.
Yeah, I'm a bit sceptical about these things. It's a bit hard for me to understand how all things work. You might be different, but I know that often people that work for these agencies are employed by these companies sort of thing, and they give you sort of a slate sort of science that comes out.
Well, you can ask me any question.
We walk through.
You can ask me any question. We're not leaving here until you're satisfied that I've answered your questions. So
it's all the paperwork. You're never going to be into that sort of thing.
Well,
there's always these regulations.
Just one moment. This gentleman here in front of me understands the importance of humus and organic carbon, and understands that if we do build organic humus or carbon in the soils, we won't have soil water runoff. We're going to have infiltration.
his neighbour of mine, I understand what he does very well. He's actually growing loose and 40 bars to the acre on this sort of soil that you were talking about.
Give me a couple of years and we'll better that 40 bales. Sorry?
We've had up to 60 and 70 bales in 6 weeks.
Well, good.
But what you're saying just makes so much good sense.
Well, it does, because it'll work. Because we're not just putting the water on the soil.
I was only asking that question about the Murray-Darling, but if we start to do this, they'll be streaming down the Murray-Darling, they're not getting the runoff they used to be.
Have a look on the internet. There's a there's a project that I was involved in at Allarup. Have a look at what we did. The EHP came and said, with certain waste that we were using, they said, you're killing the soil, you're killing the trees, we're going to take you to court. And we said, all right, well, go to town, do whatever you've got to do, here's the paddock, go and find the problem. After 6 months, we sent photos back and said, well, we'll tender this as evidence, and see that dead tree that you thought we killed? Have a look at it. Go on, look. All new shoots. Why? Because we were looking at the issues of the soil. I've done many years of study, and the stuff they taught me at uni, you might as well go. The stuff that the old dudes have taught that is not taught in the universities is we're actually going to aspire to achieve. And that's the increasing of the calcium in the cation exchange. If I don't have calcium at 65%, plants don't work. They won't meet their genetic potential. Now, that didn't come from me, that comes from Dr. Arden Anderson. Look him up on the internet. Yeah. Look at Dr. Arden Anderson's words. It says the genetic potential of plants will only be met as long as you have 65% calcium as the base saturation percentage. Now, what are we doing with all our fungicides and pesticides and herbicides? We're stopping the plants from meeting its genetic potential because we're stopping off that activity pathway for calcium to get in there and do the right thing. And those guys have got all the scientists in there that can dance me around the table much more than what I'm not trying to do here. I'm trying to make this into a science sort of argument.
I understand that science, Arden Anderson and those fellows, Albrecht and those...
Well, Albrecht and Arden Anderson is right in this document. I'm not calling upon anything that I was taught at university. I'm actually using Arden Anderson. I'm using our soils were tested by Albrecht solutions down at EAL. I didn't use the city labs. I went to EAL in Lismore who subscribed to Albrecht and Arden Anderson's teachings. So I'm heartened to hear that there's some people in the room that understand Arden Anderson and what they're saying, because it works.
So if you use a bit of radionics, don't do?
Yeah, look, I don't really want to start talking about radionics in here, but it's something. I have a radionics instrument, and we will be doing. We may do some things like that. We may put up a tower. We may do a few things like that. But I didn't really want to start getting into that sort of stuff. Like, lady.
Yeah. You know, I'm totally with improving soils and all that. It's great, but there has been an application recently for drilling muds, and specifically, you know, like I think there's been, you know, a lot of, you know, stuff done in the past with human waste. But the difference here is, you know, that has not been done in Australia before is the drilling muds. And there was an application, EA application by Origin to trial landscaping and drilling fluid, and it was the trial never went ahead and was withdrawn.
Because it wasn't going to work, man.
Yes.
It wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to work.
Yeah. So there's still a lot of the same issues that need to be addressed.
Certainly, we at this point in time we're not taking in drill muds, right? We're not. However, we've got experience and we can demonstrate that we're taking in drill muds to our facilities now. We're correcting the base saturation cation levels. We are adding stabilised humus, and we're sending it back out as rehab soil. Then you can do landscaping with it. So all we've done is we've taken that mud that you can't do anything with, we've added certain cofactors that it needs, and we've just turned it back into good soil. It's not hard as long as you know what you're doing. Now, what those guys wanted to do, they just wanted to get that mud and throw it on the ground and say, well, it should be right. Well, that's not going to work.
Whereabouts you got facilities at the moment you're doing this?
We have a Swanbank at behind the power station at Ipswich.
That's our compost.
That's the composting
We've got 2 composting facilities at the moment. We want to diversify from continue our composting, but we want to get out into the land application as well, where we can move our compost and our composting facilities out as well.
So are you taking waste from New South Wales?
No.
I read an application that was approval for, waste to be moved from New South Wales to Swanbank.
They're doing it already, man, because they're doing it already, and they've done it for years, because Queensland have taken out the waste levy, so it's cheaper to drive waste from Victoria, the other side of Melbourne, backload it with air, and dump it here in Queensland. That's happening all the time. We're not a waste disposal facility where we use the material that comes in, we recycle it, we reuse it. What you're talking about there is Ramondas taking waste from Ballina, Sydney, all the rest of it, because it's cheaper. And that is happening, and that's happened.
That's not us.
Just a quick question, because I believe, wasn't it Gasco, I think they were taking their drill waste to Swanbank?
Yeah,
they'd probably be taking it up to you guys.
They'd come to composting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And bear in mind, it's not, you don't bring in 200,000 litres and throw the green waste with that and just make compost out of the muds. This percentage of the drilling mud goes in to the other mixture. It's not 100% drilling mud. There is a formula that we use.
And there's stuff in drilling mud that is not in the test, so if you do start to use drilling mud, or, wherever this mud is going, when it's, whatever it is that is done with it, which I would be very interested to know the process.
Yeah, in relation to the other things that we're not testing for, you may be referring to MSDS sheets that talk about different chemicals or different drilling additives that they use. Before any of that material comes through the gates at our other facilities, we look at those MSDSs, and if that material is in any way bringing contaminants that can't be utilised or can't be transformed in the mixtures that we're making, we won't receive them. But I've had a look at many MSDSs now, and there's nothing really in the drill muds that I'm concerned with in relation to the concentrations that are in them. Biggest problem with the drill muds is that they're full of potassium, they don't have any calcium, they don't have any organics, and you can't do anything with them.
They're often too active in
yeah, but the biocides, ladies and gentlemen, everything's salt. Everything's salt in the soil. It's either inorganic or it's organic. And when I say inorganic, that's salt. Everything's salt.
Yeah, well, salt is, too much salt's not good for you.
But too much ammonium nitrate, is salt, and that'll be bad for the soil as well. It's not just when we say salt, there's salts in everything. So
I think she's talking sodium
cognizant
chloride.
of those salts.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to be difficult. We have a strict scrutiny. These guys, they send things to me. I'm the independent person that looks at what is in these drill muds or fluids. And if there's anything suspect in there, we don't take it. Look, we've got examples. Yesterday I said, no, don't take it. It's got something in it that they can't demonstrate, or unless they give us further data on what that means, we're not taking it. So
do you rely on them to provide you data on it?
Ordinarily, when people come to these facilities to get rid of their waste to be recycled, it has to be scrutinised. We have a waste vetting process where people are to give us their MSDSs and their data. They're to give us a sample at the time of delivery. Then we'll randomly take the samples to make sure that that data set is right. Now, we don't take every single sample and test for every mill. Nothing like that happens in the world. You've got to have a risk matrix in place so that if something is uncovered at this point, what are you going to do to fix that?
Yeah, well, that's the other thing that could be a bit of an issue with when you've got so many different streams going in, is when you do find problems somewhere along the line, and if you don't know specifically where that, say that drilling water or that drilling waste comes from, for example, everywhere is different, and
that's
so
right.
And the things that you test for.
That's right. So what we've said in our document, and it's a good point that you raise, one-off deliveries of, say, drill mud or drill fluid from that company that we're dealing with, If it's a one-off, they have to give us data. If it's from an area where it's a consolidated dam that's on their place, then there's a relaxation in the monitoring that we want because it's a consistent batch. But if it's a one-off batch, then they'll have to test for that. But they won't test every truck that comes from that pond because it's just going to come up with the same data. It's in the same pond.
Yeah. Well,
And then on top of that, we will test, once we put the waters into our dam, we'll test that. Then on top of that, every 12 months we'll test the soil. So we've got this process of tracking this material, these different resources, so that we can demonstrate that it's just not glorified waste disposal. Because otherwise, if the EHP, I told you a story just before where the EHP came looking at another company that I work for and they said, you're contaminating the land. Well, if we didn't monitor the soil and we didn't know in actual fact what was going on, yeah, we could have been done for potential harm. You've got to keep your records, and that's what we've got in our procedures. And this is the environmental compliance person from NuGrow that will be, in the first instance, checking that, and then I'll be checking his work.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, so, but anyway, the problem is, probably, there's so many different data streams, and down the track, there'll be further, places that'll be coming from. There'll be shale, that's already kind of been approved for, around, here. And so there'll be more, different things that might not be being tested for. So if they're not being tested for, you won't know they're there. And so, there's a list of, things from, different areas, where it has been done in the US, where they've had...
There's been a lot of failures, really.
I understand. This is only what we're testing in the soil. Some of those other contaminants that you're talking about, some of those radionuclides and the like, once I apply them to the soil, you're not going to get them out of the LOR anyway. They're coming in such minor concentrations, you're not going to, well, from the data sets that I've seen, and I've been looking at this stuff now, and it's not just this company that I'm working for and treating this CSG water. If it's going to come out of the ground, we're going to have to do something with it, as opposed to trying to dehydrate it and just lock up the salt in the landfill, which is an absolute waste. They're talking about building a landfill. There's one proposal for the state over the next 25 years to hold 5 million tonne of salt. Well, who's going to pay for that? Like, how ridiculous is it? If they're going to bring it out of the ground, and that's another story entirely. I'll
just make a comment. Doesn't matter what you do, there's always risk involved.
That's right.
You have to live with risk. I drive down that road, there's a risk.
That's right.
But if we can utilise the microflora, a lot of those things which we might see as on their own as a risk, bacteria can utilise those things and convert them into things that are useful to us. That's a fact that we've got to deal with.
I didn't want to start getting into biotransmutation, but again, you've got someone in the room here that, how does a crab grow in the sea when the sea is full of sodium and its shell is 98% calcium? Where does it get the calcium from? Where does it get it? And it filters water. How does it work? People go, I don't know. Well, how does it work? There's some people with trains of thoughts in the world that biotransmutation occurs. I think he's on the money, but most people at the universities laugh at him. But anyway, let them laugh. The crab's still growing 98% calcium in an environment where there's none. So the gentleman here in front of me, look, some of these anions and cations that are in these waters, Paracelsus said in the 17th century, the dose is the poison. And we're not going to kill these soils with the program that we're putting in place. The inordinate amount of money that we're going to spend on a yearly basis to demonstrate, because we want to demonstrate how to grow carbon in the soil. We want to demonstrate that you don't have to put a carbon tax out there on it. Just grow it in the soil. We're done with it. Use the microbes to fix it. Don't charge people and bring another tax on the people to say, well, we're just going to burn it anyway, so we're just going to tax people. What a lot of rubbish. Grow it in the soil.
A good job, not too distant future, because Queensland Gas are going to have to show us how they can restructure the soil where they put their big pipeline through, and all I can see is one hell of a mess.
They're not going to be able to do it, so what they're going to have to do is come to us,
because that's what
And that's what we're already doing. They bring us their waste, and what we're sending back to them is soil that is going to fix these areas where they're cutting through soil country where, mate, I'm telling you, a good downpour, a couple of times a year, half these pipes are going to crack, they're going to destabilise because there's no cohesion in the soil.
I'm not saying you actually.
You know,
all jokes aside, I'm quite serious. We've asked them to show us how they're going to rehabilitate these soils.
they don't know how to.
And they don't know how.
No.
And we're telling them if you can't do that, then you don't come in. But
If they align themselves with people like us.
But yeah, like all jokes aside, it's a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah.
They think they put a few banks across and this is going to solve it.
Not going to work,
Send
mate.
them straight out. That's just
Not going to work.
they'll end up with their pipes out on the ground again and this sort of thing. But we need this sort of technology. We need this technology to fix up the mess that's being created.
On a limited scale,
We'll talk later.
on a limited scale, I've been a part of demonstrating how you can fix the soil from waste and make it productive. What we're proposing here is we're going to accelerate that speed.
Yeah.
Why? Because we're going to use the water. And we're going to dope that water. We're going to turn these soils around and make sure that our calcium is dominant. And then we'll demonstrate what Arden Anderson's telling everyone to demonstrate.
More questions?
Yeah.
I see that some local government representatives here, what part of it do you play with them? Do you regulate these funds at all?
Yeah, they're regulated by the state.
So they just buy
So they invited us to...
You're like us, you're just a bystander process.
But we
And the same, but if the council's not happy, that they can put in
Yeah.
objection as well, so.
Yeah, we want to have due consideration for the concerns that the community raises.
There's important nuts in this whole process, I think that's it. Okay.
So,
I just said that these fellows seem to be imposing with us in this whole process.
No, you're not.
Not necessarily this whole process.
You're not, because if I was up here telling you a different story and you knew that I think there's some people in here thinking that, oh, what this bloke's saying is he's sort of saying the right stuff. And if it was a complete palaver and a joke, you've got every right to, you've taped it. Add that to the EPA, submit that in and say, is this bloke telling you bona fide stuff?
No, what I was talking
I
about, I was in town yesterday and a fellow was telling me that they're building a lot of houses in Dolby sort of thing, and they put these particular slabs down, there's grass coming through the slabs. I reckon the people need lawnmowers inside instead of vacuum cleaners. But they've been passed by the local council, and you probably could not pass it because there's some regulations, so they got needs.
Might have been independent building surveyors across them, so they might have been in the states. So that's a whole issue.
But I mean, that's you're imposed in that area, you know, we're imposed in a lot of these areas out here. If something goes wrong, that's what I mean.
Some of you had questions.
Two questions. One is, do you have any concerns about using untreated human effluent from the viral point of view?
No.
And the second is, why do you think Fonterra refused to take milk from lands in New Zealand?
Sorry, what's the last bit?
Fonterra,
Yeah.
they're a company in New Zealand who refused to take milk from farms that had drilling waste on them.
Drilling waste or biosolids?
Well, from waste from the drilling waste.
When you put biosolids, for example, out onto the ground, and it's for pasture improvement, chicken manure, doesn't really matter, you need to let those paddocks stay. And you at least need to give them a couple of months. Most farmers put the cows back on straight after the biosolids application, they're taking all the viruses into the milk.
Actually, there's a spelling period in New South Wales guidelines,
Yeah.
I think it's 120 days.
Something like that, 3 months. So unfortunately, the problem is in New Zealand they're throwing manures and biosolids around, and they're unfortunately putting their animals back onto those areas while the viruses are still there. It's a numbers game. If I can build a population of good aerobic humus builders in that soil, it doesn't really matter what pathogens I'm going to have in the biosolids, because they're going to get out competed. There's disease all over us as we speak. It's the only thing that keeps you alive at the moment and not being sick is that your immune system has got a predominance in your intestines as good bacteria, microflora, the probiotics.
Yeah.
So that's how you're gonna compete with the virus. And then again, it's the dose. You're going to have exclusion zones. You're not going to be able to allow anyone to come onto a paddock that's not allowed to be in that paddock to touch the soil, to you know, there's going to be protocols here.
So are there any seasons that you will not be adding biomass to the soil? Like in terms of when the rains come, that's going to go down onto Brian's land?
We have biosolids will not be applied to saturated soils. Irrigation will not occur to saturated soils, and I think
It can't happen in a rain event anyway, because you won't get on the land.
It won't get on the land. So no, we won't be applying any biosolids or liquids to wet soil. It's just not going to work. We'll spread the disease. We need to contain. Whilst we know what we're doing, we can't be cavalier in our approach. We can't just say, you'll be right, mate. Chuck it here, chuck it there. No, that's where the people do it wrong. That's how they get in trouble. And we're not going to do that.
So from my dam water, because as I say, that's straight into my house dam. Any mistake that you guys make at all, whether it's a new guy that's never worked on the job before and he stuffs up, or whatever, it doesn't matter whether there's an abnormal rain event. I don't think you can stop your water, right? But I hope you can. You'll solve one of my problems, but I don't think you can. Say there's a major event, that water is going to come into my house dam. Are you prepared to
rectify any mistake that we make?
I want to know before
what's coming.
Is there anything built into your strategy where you are going to test what's coming onto my land instead of testing what's going off of your land? Because it only has to miss your trap, your test point, and it's on my property. It's not going to miss my dam. I can assure you.
What we could probably do there is normally a lot of sites we do upstream and downstream monitoring prior to anything we do. So we would come on, you let us take some soil samples from your block, being downstream, and some water samples in your dam. That will be what we'd use as a baseline. Correct. And take it from there, and if you had a concern, we would come straight back in, do the test, send it to a laboratory that you choose yourself to send it to rather than us, because then it becomes totally independent. We can always put those sort of plans in place for you to alleviate your
It's a lot easier to get them in place before it starts than after it starts.
Certainly. We would like to know exactly where, who are the immediate neighbours to the Iona Park? Is only
directly downstream.
Okay. So we really need to have a look, because when we've had a look at our images and the like, we see a number of dams around on different properties around. So you tell us which dam it is, and like I said before, we're going to recontour and shape some of this land, and we're going to make on-site dams bigger. And we're not going to open up the whole farm in one hit. So as long as we know where that critical nodal point is that we need to protect, we'll ensure that we'll put more protection on. And that may just be simply contour banks and ensuring that vetiver grass and lamanders and the like are planted in that washout zone so that we can trap that soil, trap that water, put it into the soil and keep as much as possible coming onto the place. But we can do that after the meeting. We can have a look on the can we get onto Google on the near maps there, maybe not?
But that's like I said, we will put, if that helps alleviate any of your fears, we don't have any problem with that into our plans. So
I've got a fair few, and I would actually appreciate a decent chat.
Always belongs to
no problem, sir.
You can take up both their time and just talk to them, all your concerns, any information else.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Who is actually responsible for reclassifying waste as a resource?
EHP, based on our application. They'll say, okay, based on the information that's been provided, that waste generated by that company is now classified as a resource for this project. So I can't go anywhere else, it can only go here.
Once it is reclassified, will that be simply only to you and your project?
Yeah,
that won't cover everyone else?
It's a specific
apply for their own BU.
Okay. And so this, you have to get it right on this property before you can do it somewhere else, is that correct?
Oh, not necessarily get it right.
It won't go ahead of that.
It won't go ahead if they don't believe the science. If we start to demonstrate that we're setting out to achieve what we want, They will apply for other places where there's CSG.
Okay, and that has to do with the agreement with the landholder.
Hang on, ladies and gentlemen. Just one thing. I can't hear.
And so this, of course, has to be the agreement with the landholder. So this property that you're doing now, that's in conjunction with the landholder, or have you bought the property?
No, our intention is to purchase the block of land and eventually run our own cattle and everything on it.
So it'll be like a test property.
And
It's no experiment. It's the real deal. Yeah.
and who exactly is NuGrow?
It's represented by these three guys, but it's a company that's...
NuGrow is it's a liquid and organic recycling company. We make compost, we supply the likes of main roads, all those types of people, landscaping yards with their products.
So it's an Australian local company?
No, we're just a Queensland-based company.
Okay, and who's Planco?
Planco is another arm, which it originally was called Planco, then we decided to give it a name. Planco is what you would call the parent company, and NuGrow is the operating arm of that company.
So it's a subsidiary of Planco?
Yeah, and what it is, NuGrow has a little bit more, what we could say, better name than Planco, NuGrow. It's one of those decisions we sort of made.
And so is there any other things that you do around this area?
No, we're just liquid and organic compost.
So you don't get bentonite from around this area? So do you use bentonite do you do any other operations that include bentonite for soil?
We use clay in our compost and soil mixes, but it doesn't...
Sorry, can everybody talk just the one? Because Michael here can't hear, he's got industrial deafness.
Yeah, so I know the food of
So basically, you're only these areas that are on the card are the areas that you...
We operate at Gracemere, which is outside of Rockhampton. We operate a facility at Swanbank. Hopefully we'll get approval and we'll operate here. And there is another facility that we've just gained approval at the Roma landfill, which is primarily to fix up their landfill by using waste to turn into compost and soils to fix up a problem that they've got out there. So there will be another facility starting soon in Roma.
With Roma, we're going to start taking all their organic waste instead of the landfilling. We're going to compost it on their site. That is what is a 6-month trial with the council to see if we can help alleviate, give them a bit of long term in their landfill. Currently, at the rate they're going, it's going to run out pretty quick, so if we can help them guys across that and do organics out and compost it down for them, they'll use the compost we make for the rehabilitation of their landfill. So it's a 6-month trial, that one.
Okay, so there's no biomass going on there, biomass generation? No. Okay, one other question that kind of relates a little bit back more specifically to land is all this information that you're going to go to the people who are going to be affected or in the area, like the information on the land slope and what you're actually going to be doing?
We'll interact with our immediate neighbours, and we would thoroughly encourage that we get conversing with our immediate neighbours so that anything that we do on this parcel of land doesn't cause anyone immediately adjacent to us a problem. We don't want to just close up the shop and say don't come in anywhere near us anymore, get off our property. We actually want to find out where that dam is, show you what we're going to do and say, right, if for example you're downstream and it's paddock 3 that we're going to bring online in 3 or 4 years time, we're going to start at paddock 1 or whichever one first, we will let you know we're coming into paddock 3. We've got this in place, we've got nothing to hide. We've got everything to prove.
Is that we hope that you guys who own properties near us come and say, hey guys,
can you do it on our?
Come and do it on our place.
Because we will.
That is the ultimate outcome for us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what it's about.
Yeah. We demonstrate and you'll say, bring it up to our place.
And you guys are going to go, wow, what about me? Can you help me? And that's hopefully what will happen.
Yeah.
What if it does cause a problem? What if it does cause a problem?
And there's mitigatory measures that we are constructing as we speak in a site-based management plan that is going to tell them if this happens, do this. If that happens, do this. Now, I have 18 years experience in writing those, and I have not had one application refused based on the procedures that I write. Those procedures have come from all the things that I've seen in my life as an officer at the EHP and as a consultant that went wrong. So I'm very confident if they stick to the method of management that we're going to apply, nothing untoward or no environmental harm will occur to the receiving environment. If they choose to not consider what I've written and they go about it, well, it's up to them, mate.
But what happens to Brian?
Because
if it goes wrong, what happens to Brian?
The EHP will order them to clean it up, you know. But I'm only telling you that'll happen to Brian if they have a harebrained idea and say, well, these 300 pages of manuals that Luke's written, forget about it. They'd be foolish to do that. They would be foolish. But we can give a commitment to Brian that before we even come anywhere in Cooee of that property boundary within this farmstead, we'll tell him what we're doing. We'll ask Brian, have you got any problems with? No. Have you considered this? We're not coming in there.
You've got to change your name.
Well, it's the. I suppose it's what we got from the real estate. I own a farmstead. Yeah. But if it's not,
it is. Semantics, but you put my name.
That's not an issue. That can be that's easy done. But if you have any problems, but if you have any problems, we would like you to come to us. That's what it's about, and it doesn't have to happen here. Contact Pete with a list of things that you'd like help with, what you would like us to do, especially because you're downstream. Upstream, really, there is no concern, but for upstream, it's downstream, where we will help alleviate your fears, and if not, we will take control measures, base measures, testing of your place to make sure that we have a baseline, that you know what your baseline was before we started. So.
And one other question: have you got guaranteed quantity and quality of water from the company that you'll be getting water from?
That'll come down to testing.
Well, that'll come down to whether or not their water meets the ranges that we are saying to the EHP we want to take to manage. There's no point in me saying, bring us water with 33,000 microsecond. I'm not even going to try and play with that. What we're trying to capture, these waters, these production waters that at the moment are sitting in dams evaporating and no one knows what to do with it. And all they're doing is evaporating. Once they make salt, then they've got to go to Tees or Ramondas for monocell disposal, and at a significant expense. What we're demonstrating by using the drill and production waters at the moment is that we're creating humified compost and soils that are being used for rehabilitation.
So
and we're not causing any harm.
You're not going to be taking reverse osmosis water?
No.
Okay.
Because I can't really do much with that.
Too high.
It's too high. I want to get the water before it goes into that reverse osmosis, because in that bracket I can play with it. Where a lot of people say, oh, when water's over 4,000 microcentimeters, you can't use it. Well, no, we've got technology that does, and it's proven, and we're going to do that if we get approval. But we're not going to take RO waters and try and do the same thing with those. Best thing with RO water, build a pipe, stick it back into the sea. That's about it. If you're going to do that, which I think is a waste of energy anyway. RO is very expensive. You know, it's. I don't think you'll see RO. If RO becomes a predominant way in evaporating the water from the production of this CSG, I don't know. I don't think people have factored that into the cost.
Have you seen the RO plant?
Yeah.
They're building another one out near Untitled.
At the end of the day, there's no guarantee the CSG drilling companies will even come on board with this. Okay, so that's.
Yeah, they might want to go RO.
They might go RO, and that's it. But we're going to put a proposal forward to maybe utilise some of this resource that's technically just being wasted.
Yeah.
Well, they're putting it in Church and Shore Weir. They're putting it into the RO water. They're Roma. They're re-injecting it into. They're doing the thing with CSRO experimental, re-injecting into aquifer. They're giving it to farms, and so which I don't know how long when this water stops being produced, where they're going to get the water from.
For us?
No, for anyone, for anyone.
You'll catch a lot in your dams, I can assure you. It comes through there, right?
We saw the evidence of that when we went through there. We saw the fence line. We saw the 18 inches that you're talking about. But once we open up those soils, then it won't be 18 inches.
The delta magnetic treatment, I thought that was something to do with removing iron from pipes.
Yeah, it is.
So how does it work to make this?
Changes the polarity of the water so that a lot of problems out here with pipes and the like is the iron and the sodium and calcium sticking to pipes. What they've basically done is they pass it through a very strong magnet, and changes the polarity of the water. So then I suppose what's happening is that the molecules being changed by the magnetic field, so that stuff goes through the system and it doesn't stick to the pipes. Yeah. If you want a paper on it, I can send you it.
Yeah.
I can send it.
Yeah, it just seems difficult to imagine how you get from treated, untreated effluent and this coal seam gas drill water to get something that
Sorry, what's it causing?
It seems sort of, I'd like to see the paper to see how you get from A to B and to make it actually beneficial.
Certainly. That's no problem, we can do that. This technology's been around for 20 years now, and where they were using high sodium chloride waters that they couldn't get strikes in canola, once the magnet went on, the right size magnet, their increase in yields was significant. Nothing else changed other than the polarity of the magnet on the water.
And what's bioactive? What actually is it?
Bioactive is a calcium carbonate powder that's been put into a chamber, and it's made to emulate the electron spin of oxygen, so that material starts to act like oxygen. Similar to what the gentleman started to talk about with radionics, you can manipulate certain things to make them, how can I put it, act like others. So the bioactive is, you'll look at it and you'll go, that's a bag of lime. You can't do with lime what you can do with bioactive. If you put lime straight on biosolids, you'll drive ammonia off, right, because of the alkalinity. Bioactive is the same stuff as lime, but because of this treatment, the ammonia doesn't come off. So it's a bit hard to explain. It's a bit hard to explain. It's really to do with bioresonance. You're making something act like something else. For example, I can't put that bioactive under fluorescent lights, I can't put a magnet across it, I can't put it near any electromagnetic fields whatsoever. Otherwise it will discharge the information that's been put into it. Where I store it at my facility or at my office, it is nowhere near electromagnetic fields because it discharges the information. I've been using it now for 7 years, and I was first introduced to it at the EPA over 10 years ago.
Do you have a paper on that as well?
I can get you information on bioactive, certainly.
Thank you.
But you're going to have to study nuclear magnetic resonance theory and stuff like that. So it's quite heavy, but it does work. I know it sounds strange. People actually say it's just food juice or feathers and crystals. That's okay. These guys put it in their compost, they put it in dams. I have people that ring me up, and we've had problems where their facilities are, they don't know what to do, they stink. I said, no worries, you buy 20 kilos of this, you put it in that. By tomorrow morning it should be okay. They ring me in 3 hours, it's fixed. Anyone who's got piggeries, I feed it to my chooks. When it rains, the chook pen doesn't smell because it's actually used in piggeries as a gut modifier. It actually liquefies manures, desludges septic tanks, compost toilets, it works in that, kills algae in ponds, oxygenates the system. Harness, get it on your skin, it won't hurt you. Wouldn't eat it, but there was a product that you could drink and banned in Australia because the TGA won't allow it in here. But it's a big thing in Austria and Germany, even in Romania. We're going to use the bioactive salt on the soil to stimulate the oxygen, the microbes in situ. 1 kilo per hectare is enough to increase yields up to 15% when everything else is held equal in the soil. It's quite innovative and disruptive technology. But most people will laugh at it.
The fellow had that sawmill up here, actually, he had a wall there, he had a big machine that he used to debark the trees with. He told me, he said he used to get the water out of the bore and wash it down, and where he washed the drum down, he'd get rust marks on it.
That's right.
He put a magnetic thing on it, he said when he washed it down, the rust marks disappeared.
That's right, because what the water's actually doing, you've changed the polarity of the water, so where the iron wanted to crystallise or played out on the metal, doesn't now, the water keeps it in solution. What I think is going to happen, and what I think happens with the Delta magnet, is that there's a few things, and I've spoken to the manufacturer, and I'm going to do some experiments to try and work out what actually is going on and why waters that often are not productive or not good enough to produce crops, what is actually occurring. And I've got a couple of ideas on what I think is occurring, and you touched on it before with biotransmutation. I want to do a few things. I want to use Iona Park as a bit of a, because these guys aren't looking at it, and I want to see what actually is occurring. I have a theory on what is occurring, and that's part of it. But also the calcium, the little bit of calcium and alkalinity that is in the water, if I can get it from staying on the pipe and I can get it into the plant, then maybe I'm meeting that genetic potential, or they're part of what I need with the calcium in my plants. So I think there might be a couple of things that are happening.
More questions?
Well, I would go before too long, so I'm plenty
Video
and take off.
As
long as we go good.
Oh, you shut him. Sorry.
Great,